Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the human mind. And we're not just looking at it as an organ, but as a literal biological virtual reality system. We usually think of reality as something that just happens to us, right? But the science we are exploring today suggests something much more profound. Your brain isn't just perceiving the world around you, it's actively rendering it.
So let me ask you, are you awake right now or are you dreaming? Seriously, perform a quick reality test for me. Look around your room. Is the text on your screen stable? Do the laws of physics still apply? Because understanding exactly how your brain simulates reality is the absolute key to unlocking its greatest mysteries. Think about it. If your brain can conjure up a perfectly convincing 3D world while you're fast asleep in bed, how much of what you're seeing right now is just another layer of that exact same simulation software? Let's kick things off with lucid dreaming. This state totally proves that the brain functions as a wildly powerful internal simulation environment. Modern neuroscience shows us that standard dreaming is essentially a reality rendering engine that just keeps humming along even when our eyes are shut tight, helping us consolidate memories and simulate threats. But when you become lucid, a very specific part of your brain, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, actually wakes up while the rest of your body remains asleep.
Here is the roadmap for our explainer today. 1. Biological virtual reality. 2. Glitches in the system. 3. The internal pharmacy, which, by the way, is going to be our main core focus for this session. 4. Hacking the mind. 5. The chemistry of connection. And 6. The final frontier. Section 1. Biological virtual reality. Think about a standard dream. You're basically a passive observer just along for the ride in a scripted experience, mostly because your logic center is deactivated. But in a lucid dream, you become an active participant with intentional control because that logic center fires back online. You are no longer just letting the simulation run in the background. You are actively taking control of the code itself. But lucidity isn't just a simple on and off switch, It happens in stages. At step 1, low lucidity, you realize you are dreaming, but you can't really change the environment. Reaching step 2, high lucidity, requires you to check for rendering errors in the brain's code, doing those reality tests we just talked about to gain full self-awareness and actually control the dream's physics. Down the line, stabilizing these specific states might even serve as a substrate for advanced brain-computer interfaces. Section 2. Glitches in the system. Now that we know the brain simulates reality, what happens when that rendering engine stutters? Enter déjà vu. According to the dual processing theory, déjà vu is literally a timing error. If incoming information hits your long-term memory a tiny millisecond before it hits your conscious awareness, usually due to a slight desynchronization in the temporal lobe, your brain registers the current moment as a past memory. You experience déjà vu. It's your own personal rendering glitch in sensory timing. But what if millions of people experience a glitch at the exact same time? When massive groups collectively misremember details, like the Berenstain Bears being spelled with an A, the Monopoly Man mysteriously losing his monocle, or Darth Vader never actually saying the word Luke, we are facing the Mandela effect. It raises some genuinely fascinating questions. Is this just psychological confabulation where our brains logically fill in the gaps? Or are we looking at minor patches and updates in our shared reality's code? Another built-in biological quirk is nyctophobia, our ancestral fear of the dark. When faced with just a normal shadow in a low-light room, the brain uses pareidolia, which is our hardwired pattern-seeking glitch. Because humans don't naturally have great night vision, our amygdala just turns up the sensory gain and intentionally hallucinates threats in random shadows to prep us for a fight or flight response. It completely prioritizes safety over accuracy, effectively keeping us safe in the void. Better safe than sorry, right? Section 3. The internal pharmacy. Like I mentioned earlier, this is our core focus today, so let's really unpack it. This is honestly one of the most profound mechanisms of the human mind, the psychosomatic bridge. Your belief alone can trigger an internal pharmacy. The placebo effect proves that optimism and trust actually release healing dopamine and opioids, physically reducing your pain. But then there's its dark twin, the nocebo effect, which proves that anticipatory anxiety literally creates physical distress, dumping cortisol into your system and heightening pain. Your beliefs are actively rewriting your biological state in real time. It's wild. We also see this chemical synthesis happening in a phenomenon called frisson, otherwise known as musical chills. When an unexpected acoustic shift hits your ear like a massive, soaring vocal entry, it triggers a mild startle response. But the moment your brain realizes the sound is beautiful, a dense neural bridge converts that adrenaline into pure dopamine euphoria. It's repurposing an ancient survival reflex into a profound aesthetic experience. Your brain isn't just perceiving art, it is physically manufacturing the joy you feel from it.
Section 4. Hacking the mind.
Our internal software is incredibly powerful, but it can be bypassed. Take intuition, for example. Intuition isn't magic. It's just a high-speed data processing hack. Your subconscious mind is constantly scanning 11 million bits of information per second, identifying patterns instantly. It then creates what's called a somatic marker, a literal physical gut feeling, to guide your decision way before your conscious mind, which only processes about 50 bits per second, even realizes what's going on. But just like any computer system, the mind's software can be compromised by malware. High control groups and modern algorithmic echo chambers can totally bypass your critical thinking using structured systems like the BITE model, which stands for controlling behavior, information, thought, and emotion. In these environments, criticism is strictly punished, and your individual identity gets absorbed. If the group's predictions fail, members experience massive cognitive dissonance, often doubling down on the narrative just to protect their psychological identity.
Section 5. The chemistry of connection. So how does this biological VR engine handle networking and pair bonding to ensure the survival of our species? Well, the science of love actually operates in very structured neurochemical stages. It shifts us from a basic evolutionary drive for reproduction, fueled by testosterone and estrogen, into a dopamine-heavy obsession and attraction phase, and then finally settles us into long-term, stable attachment mediated by oxytocin and vasopressin.
The depth of this programming is just staggering. Subconsciously, while these chemicals are firing off to create euphoria and trust, our hardware is also sniffing out differing major histocompatibility complex, or MHC genes. Try saying that 3 times fast. Basically, we are biologically drawn to scents that indicate a different immune system than our own to ensure strong offspring. This proves that attraction isn't just random magic. It is a highly sophisticated, predictive survival algorithm.
Section 6. The final frontier. So what's the ultimate takeaway from everything we've explored today? Phenomena like near-death experiences, or NDEs, which are studied clinically in major projects like the AWARE trials, really force us to confront the very limits of our rendering engine. When patients experience profound peace, life reviews, or transcendent features even after clinical death, we have to ask a massive question. Is consciousness purely a localized product of our neural hardware, or is it a non-local field that our brains simply tune into? As we evolve into a Type 1 civilization, our survival is absolutely going to depend on mastering this internal software. We will need to stabilize lucid dreams for digital consciousness interfacing, engineer acoustics using the science of frisson for collective cohesion, and fundamentally manage the deep space psychological impact of nyctophobia as we inevitably travel through the stars.
The crucial point here is that mastering our own biological processing is the absolute prerequisite to our next great leap. Bridging the gap between our 11 million bit per second subconscious intuition and the statistical prediction models of artificial intelligence is exactly how we'll interface with artificial sentience without losing our humanity in the process. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to ponder. If we learn to fully write the code of our own biological virtual reality, what happens when we merge that capability with the cosmos? If we successfully bridge biological intuition, lucid dreams, and artificial intelligence, will we actually turn the universe itself into a conscious simulation? I'll leave you to chew on that one. Until next time, keep questioning the reality your brain is rendering.